I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on GBN, we're diving into a gripping sci-fi journey of resilience, transformation, and survival in the stars. The name of the book, The Commander and the Ship. It's written by a terrific author. His name is Stephen Alford, and he has penned a futuristic tale of a lone boy turned cyborg who raises from catastrophe to command a new destiny among alien allies. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today, and we thank the team at Atticus Publishing for making this interview possible. Stephen, thank you so much for joining us here today on the Global Book Network.
You're welcome.
This is quite an original and inspired story. How'd you come up with the idea?
I just started writing. I decided on a difficulty where an asteroid was going to hit their planet, and they had to leave, but they couldn't get any help from anybody else because the transportation was so slow in the galaxy. So they decided to build their own ships and transfer them to another planet. Well, the only planet close enough for them within 5 light years was this planet, what I call Storm. Okay, they didn't know about the storms on it at the time. They just knew of it as a refuge for their people. So they had 4 billion people, and they decided to build these ships. They were huge. They were like 250,000 people could travel in each ship, and there was 4 of them. And it just about bankrupt the planet, but they didn't have any use for the money otherwise. They're going to all die. So they built these ships, but they had older style light speed engines. You had to be going half the speed of light for them to be able to scoop enough reactionary mass into their cavernous maws in order to reach light speed. And so they were they had to change the people, modify their genetics so that they could exist on a 4 gravity planet. And what they didn't know is while they were doing this, all the politicians and such were trying to be on the first trip so that they survived.
Yeah.
And they said, okay, well, we can't dilute the price. I've had a specific choice. The doctor in charge had a specific type of person he wanted to be on that ship, the first ships. And his what he needed was people who would be cooperative. And that's who he chose to take on the first 4 ships. That was only 1 million people on all 4 of them. They still had 40 million to go, or 40 billion or whatever. And what was going with them was a battleship. And it was kind of, the Commodore of that battleship was he was a mischievous, let's say. And he stocked up with all the politicians. Well, when they were getting ready to go into light speed, the only person awake was my hero. He was 11 years old, and he was still sick and had been sick all his life. And his father had just finished doing genetics to help him cure his problems. And he would not be asleep when the rest of them were. And due to the huge amount of logistics involved, the people had to be frozen because you couldn't furnish oxygen and food for that many people to transfer them in space. So they had to be frozen. And they were in special freezers that were good for 1,000 years. They were self-contained and everything. And went to go into light speed, they all started falling apart. It was the plan of the Commodore of the battleship. He was the instigator of it. He had met these people, and they wanted the rest. They were fanatics, and they didn't care if everybody else died or not. So he says the boy watched all these ships fall apart, and he woke up in a med lab and from the explosions and stuff, and he was injured. He had lost his arm, and he was blind. Well, the cosmic rays had caused his corneas to cloud,
Hmm.
so that he couldn't see. And since his arm was, since he had nanomeds, the devices that changed his genetic makeup, they
Hmm.
were able to close off the wound on his arm so he wouldn't bleed to death. But he woke up and he couldn't see anything, and he was trying to find somebody to help him. Well, all he had was the medical droid, which lived in the wall,
Hmm.
and it gave him food or goop, as he called it. And so he was distraught, shall we say, for a while. And then he finally decided, well, I need to do something. So he made calls out for help.
Hmm.
And who showed up was the master droid of one of the ships. And them, the master droids and the heads were the droids that designed and built
Hmm.
the big ships. And he asked them, I need you to build me a ship out of the spare parts that we have floating around here in space, because he wanted to save the people.
Hmm.
So they did. He didn't realize that they were 20 feet tall. So
Hmm.
they were 8 feet tall with 20-foot long. And so he's sitting there yelling at him and all this and trying to enforce his leadership on him.
Yeah.
He had quite a bit of trouble with him, you know. He asked him to give him some medicine for the pain. They says, well, we can't do that. You're too young. And he says,
Hmm.
I'm the only one awake. I'm the commander. And
Yeah.
then they said, okay. And that's how I got the name Commander, you know,
Yeah.
for his individual.
Yeah.
And then he gets it built, and he's blind the whole time he's doing this.
Hmm.
Well, while he's doing this, these aliens come onto the ship. They're floating in the air, and they're going through all wreckage,
Hmm.
and they're photographing it and taking it and things. Well, they can go through walls and everything like that. And he catches one, you know, on his hand, but he's not going to injure him. And they
Hmm.
start deciding they need to change him so they can communicate to him. Well, they their communication is across the spectrum, the radio electronic spectrum. So
Hmm.
he has to have all these sensors built in himself that are modified his body, so that he can talk to these. So he can see X-rays and he can see infrared and he can see everything. That fixed his eyes
Yeah.
because they put the mechanics in there for him. And then uh, the master droid was able to build him a bionic arm
Hmm.
so he could have a new arm. So that solved the problem. Well, he gets the ship built, and he can only take 25,000 at a time. And he says, well, I'm going to have a faster ship in order to be able to accomplish the movement of all these people in this amount of time because I have less capability. So he uses the giant light speed engines, like 100-foot in diameter and 500-foot long, and they put one on each side, and then four standard speed engines, so that he can accelerate up to the speed needed for the light speed engines to work.
Hmm.
And he chops it down to like 3 months one way and 3 months back.
Yeah.
Well, he gets to the planet. Battleship had been there before and dumped all the people off of it, all the
Hmm.
politicians off of it, in the storm zone of the planet.
Hmm.
It was really hard. Eventually, the adults died, and
Hmm.
all there was children. And this is why I call it the story of the children of the storm, because
Hmm.
they were all young. And he after he the first time he had
You know,
My
Stephen, we
parents,
don't want to give away too much of the story because we want people to read the book. But let me ask
yeah,
you this. Have you envisioned this as a movie?
I thought it would make a good one
Yeah.
after the
Great
fact.
locations, great action, great characters. Peter would be an awesome character. Have you thought about who would play Peter in your movie?
Well, that would be difficult because it'd be young and then it'd be older.
Yes, you'd have
And
to cast
he's
a couple
about
of
six,
actors.
yeah, he's like 6 foot six.
Okay.
He was the same height as his father was. See,
Okay. Well,
say so
I'm
when they
about six foot
changed it.
six, but I'm a little too skinny to play Peter, I think. I would have to be all cyborg in order to play Peter. That's awesome. Well, it's such a great story. You did such a great job with this. I think it'd be a great film as well. Like I said, you got great characters, you got great action, you've got a great story. So, Hollywood, if you're listening, here is a book that is ready to be turned into a film. The name of the book is The Commander and the Ship. It is an unforgettable sci fi tale of survival, transformation, and strength in the face of cosmic odds. Stephen, thank you so much for joining us here today on GBN. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford for the Global Book Network. So long for now.